Hi, and welcome back to Weekly Dev Tips. I'm your host, Steve Smith, aka Ardalis. This is episode 65 with Lars Klint. Lars is a technical instructor for Azure for the company A Cloud Guru, and he took a few minutes here at NDC in London to sit down and chat with me. Hi, Lars. How you doing?
Hey, Steve. I'm good. How are you?
Good. So what are you going to share with us today?
Well, I've had my head in the clouds for a long time, as in all I do is Azure at the moment. So I thought I should pick something from the world of Azure.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah, I've just done a 2-day workshop purely on development in Azure. So I have a few things, but there's one thing in particular that always makes people go, really? So I thought I'll share that here. So there's a service on Azure called App Services. It's kind of like the basic, web hosting service for Azure that everything runs on.
Sure. Yeah. If you've got a web application, you can just push it out to Azure. You don't have to have a VM. You don't have to have any hardware.
It's just pure PaaS service. You can even run functions on it. It's basically a VM that you don't manage the VM on.
Right.
So it works really well. App services seem to be a part of every single architecture that I ever see if there's any kind of public web component to it.
Right.
So there's a thing in app service. It's called deployment slots.
Okay.
Some people have deployment slots. I find a lot of people haven't for some reason.
So tell us about what is a deployment slot?
Yeah. So a deployment slot is essentially it's a pure copy of whatever's running on your app service. So if you have a website on your app service, that tends to be the production version of it. Generally, you push to that from whatever DevOps architecture that you use or publishing system. But often you don't want to just push straight to production because, well, that's bad, right?
Sure, right.
You want to have some sort of staging environment possibly. And the deployment slot on App Service is just that. So it's almost like just clicking a button, giving it a name, saying copy the App Service main application, and you get a second slot, and a second deployment slot, a second version of your app service.
So does every app service come with one deployment slot, which is that app service, that production thing, or is your first deployment slot really your second environment?
Both, really, isn't it? So you can say you have a deployment slot initially when you start,
okay,
but it doesn't. Obviously, Azure doesn't call it that.
All right.
So you click on a little deployment slot setting or menu option in the portal, or you do it through the CLI or PowerShell, or whatever your tool of choice is. And you get this, let's say, second deployment slot or second address for your web application. So it has its own URL, which is the web or the application dash whatever name you've given this deployment slot, and you can query it directly like that. You can deploy to it directly from whatever DevOps. Let's say I always use Azure DevOps, but it could be whatever tool you choose. And it gives you this really neat and very clean way of pushing stuff to Azure, even automatically. You can have almost a continuous deployment process that pushes to this extra slot, which is not your live website.
Okay.
Then you test everything on that, say it's your staging website, and you just press the little button that says swap.
Okay.
And that swaps the two slots. So that suddenly your staging is your production, and your production becomes your staging.
And if something goes badly, you can always just click the button again.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's instantly. Maybe if a user has a session right now going, you may lose that state of a session potentially, but it is very, very instant.
You're not waiting seconds or minutes for something to redeploy. It's just a DNS switch.
Yeah, it spins up the VM in the background, and as soon as that's warm, it just swaps it. Bang.
Right.
And it switches to the DNS, and off you go. It's a very, very neat way of making sure you don't break production.
Sure.
So obviously, we can use these deployment slots for more things than just that simple scenario.
Right. That's like the vanilla expected way to use them.
Yeah. So there's two things I like to kind of point out. One is that you can have as many deployment slots as you like. So you could set up a showcase. I've worked on projects where you have, this is what the client can always go and see the progress of.
Okay.
And that may be something that you don't just push to willy-nilly. You do that maybe once a day.
Like snapshots or something.
Yeah, something like that. You know stuff is working that you are currently working on in a sprint or whatever it might be. You use one of those slots to expose to the client or to whoever is the stakeholder.
Sure. So you could have like different prototypes or different design variants, and they're all out there live, addressable simultaneously.
And you can swap them all in between the different slots.
Sure.
So you could put, a staging version into the showcase or into production or whatever it might be. And you can, of course, automate all this.
Right.
So you can put it as part of your deployment process.
All right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing like rapid prototyping.
Totally. And it's cheap because it all runs on the same app service plan. So the same VM essentially.
Yeah,
so
if you didn't know about that, you'd probably spin up a bunch of app services or resort to something like PDFs and screenshots.
Totally. Yeah. So there's no really pricing overhead. There's a little bit of management overhead, but it's really, really easy. It is generally that easy. And then there's the really cool feature that almost no one ever uses, which I find very cool. And that is that you can direct percentage of the traffic to each of the slots.
Okay.
As an example, say you had 3 slots, you have your staging slot, and then you have possibly 2 production slots.
Mm-hmm.
You can direct 50% of the public traffic to each of those deployment slots, or 20, 80, or 70, 30.
Right.
And in that way, you have a really easy way of doing A/B testing. So if you want to test out one workflow from another, or the classic example of, I've changed this buy button to blue instead of green, or the simple changes, you can test what these changes actually mean with real users. That, of course, requires a little bit more, finagling in terms of how do you manage the traffic that goes to it.
Sure. And how do you measure independently the stats, right?
All those sort of things. Yeah. But it's a very easy way of suddenly having 2 identical versions, except for that one change.
Sure.
Live on Azure.
Nice. And cheap.
Very cheap.
Yeah, you're already paying for it.
Yep.
An extra deployment slot does cost a fractional amount of money.
It's a little bit, it's hardly anything.
Right.
You're paying for the privilege of having more slots, not the processing power. So,
sure.
So those are the things that I tend to try and point out. And of course, you can integrate all this with the standard security things. You can have, service principal access, or you can have it behind a firewall on a virtual private network, whatever it is that you need in order to get access to this.
Cool.
So, those are my tips.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Thanks a lot. It's good to see you again here at NDC London. Do you have anything to share? Anything you're working on? Any projects? Or
we can always do the standard plug, right? I work for this company called Cloud Guru. I do lots of Azure training.
All over the world, or do you have a place that
we do it online?
Okay.
So at cloud.guru. And it's a strange name, but once we sort of put it into context of saying we would like to make everybody a cloud guru, it kind of makes sense. It's a great place to work. And I like my content. I try and make really not boring.
Cool.
That's my aim. Please tell me if I'm ever boring, because learning should be fun.
All right, sounds good. This has been another developer tip on Weekly Dev Tips. Sure. I'll see you next week with another great developer tip.